Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about The Last Mercenary. The Last Mercenary is a French action comedy that centers around the character Richard Brumaire, a secret agent turned mercenary who comes out of hiding in order to protect his son from being assassinated. Prior to going off the grid following a botched military operation 25 years before this movie takes place, Brumaire is able to pull some political strings behind the scenes that essentially allows his son Mahmoud to be set for life, one of them being total immunity from any crime whatsoever. This allows Mahmoud to live a life of relative peace and luxury until the immunity has been mysteriously lifted, which forces his father Brumaire into action. The two team up with a variety of characters in an attempt to clear Mahmoud's name while also simultaneously protecting him. In the process, they discover the sale of a super EMP weapon codenamed the Big Mac, which could cause global ramifications across the world if placed in the wrong hands. So it's up to the group to stop the sale from happening at all costs. I have to confess and say that I've never actually seen a Van Damme action movie before, although I have a pretty good idea of what they're generally about. A lot of crazy martial arts action scenes with bits of humor spread throughout, both intentional and unintentional. If we were judging this movie based on those merits alone, then I'd have to say that this movie did a pretty decent job overall. Obviously, Jean-Claude Van Damme is the main star of the show. Like I said, I haven't seen any of his movies in the past, so I can't really compare his work in this movie to all the movies he did way back when, but even taking that into consideration, it's clear when watching this movie that he had a really good time making it. Even at 60 years of age, he's still got the moves when it comes to getting the action done. He has a few great dramatic scenes which enhance the enjoyability of his character, and his subtle, dry humor is on point in virtually every scene that he's in. Van Damme had a lot of fun making this movie, and that fun transcends to the audience. On top of this, I think the filmmakers did a great job enhancing the character background for Richard Brumaire. I'm led to believe that most Van Damme movies don't feature much in the way of character development, so I didn't expect much going into this movie, but I found myself pleasantly surprised at the amount of depth that was given to the family history for Brumaire's character. This leads me to talk about Brumaire's son Mahmoud, who's essentially the other main character of the story. He's basically your typical MacGuffin device / escort character that doesn't really have anything special about him at first glance, and then it turns out later on in the movie, as more details are revealed, that he does in fact have something special about him. Mahmoud doesn't actually know who Brumaire really is. He introduces himself under an alias, and Mahmoud spent virtually all of his life being raised by another man named Fernand, who happened to be a close associate of Brumaire. So the entire time the audience is waiting to see when the big reveal for Brumaire's identity is going to take place, and when it does end up happening, it inevitably ends up blowing up in both characters' faces. I felt that Mahmoud was kind of 50-50 for me. He tended to go back and forth between someone who is likable and someone who is just insufferable. I felt that the moments where he was bonding with his dad and started standing up for himself more and developing more confidence over the course of the story, those were really good moments, but the parts where he's screaming his lungs off in the middle of action scenes were so annoying, and the parts where he was attempting to be funny were anything but and just constantly left me cringing. Speaking of the comedy, this is something else that I found to be a bit of a mixed bag in this movie. Now, this is a comedy movie after all, especially an action-oriented one, so you're not really supposed to take it all that seriously to begin with, but even so, I felt that there were a few elements in it that were a bit excessive. I found myself enjoying the more understated moments of humor throughout this movie's story. A few examples involve some sly Easter egg references to movies that Van Damme has done in the past, like a movie poster that Brumaire happens to walk past that features the movie Bloodsport, and his character makes a cheeky comment toward it that left me grinning from ear to ear. Another example involves a character that isn't quite as subtle by comparison, but I still enjoy the heck out of him regardless. There's a character named Alexander Lazar who's employed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and he's the one who accidentally lifts the immunity order from Mahmoud, and he was an absolute ball to watch anytime he was on screen. Most of the movie's humor is at its best when it's not directly connected to the plot. When it starts to focus back on the plot more, that's when I found it started to become a bit more egregious. One example that I will mention briefly involves the character of Simeon, who's kind of sort of the main antagonist of the story. It makes more sense when you watch the movie. Anyway, his character was a total goofball. He always seems to be cussing in Spanish in every line of dialogue he has, he always listens to push it to the limit any chance he gets, and he's always watching the movie Scarface for some reason. He's literally a living, breathing version of Tony Montana, and I don't understand why they made him that way. There's a lot of silly scenes like that spread throughout the story, so you had to be prepared going into this movie. Fortunately, the action helps offset the silliness a bit and is definitely where the movie shines the most. Bad guys are getting tossed all over the place and objects are breaking all the time. There's tons of great fight choreography and excellent use of props in all of the action scenes. It reminded me of a time when I used to be a kid growing up watching Jackie Chan movies and just how much fun I had watching those. I felt like a kid again watching the action scenes in this movie. The final brawl is by far the best one in the entire movie. I don't want to spoil much about it in case you haven't seen the movie already, but just so you know, Van Damme dons a wig and a dress surrounded by a mob of bad guys and gets a chance to use every prop in the room against each and every one of those bad guys, ranging from pinball machines to movie posters. That action scene is just perfect. The only complaint I really have about the action scenes is that sometimes it's a little too obvious that there's a stunt double filling in for Van Damme at certain parts. However, considering that Van Damme is 60 years old at this point, I don't think it's really that big of a deal. He's still a hell of a lot better than Steven Seagal is now, that's for sure. Overall, The Last Mercenary is a formulaic but enjoyable action comedy. You pretty much know everything to expect within the first 10 minutes of it starting, but it still provides some solid entertainment. If you're looking to just kick back and relax to a casual action comedy movie that features 2 hours worth of martial arts madness, I think this movie will definitely be right up your alley. Its story is predictable and its comedy doesn't always land, but at its core it still succeeds as an action movie and a work of entertainment. I'm pleased that this was the first Van Damme movie that I ever watched, and I look forward to seeing more of his work in the future. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of The Last Mercenary. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the French horror movie, The Swarm. Bye bye!